War of the Chosen is the newest expansion for XCOM 2, and it changes a lot of stuff. It's almost a whole new game. There are some big changes and some smaller ones, and while we don't have time to talk about every little thing changing because there's just so much, here are some of the more important and bigger changes that you'll see when you pick up War of the Chosen. Today in gameranx, here are 10 things you need to know before playing XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Starting off at number 10, while War of the Chosen does add some pretty major things like the Chosen themselves and the faction heroes, there are some smaller things as well, such as bonds. Bonds are a relationship mechanic that can lead to certain soldiers gaining new abilities. Each soldier you have will have a random compatibility rating with every other soldier on your roster. When two soldiers who have a high compatibility rating successfully finish missions together, their relationship will grow, eventually forming a bond. When a bond is formed, you get a new ability that can be used between those two soldiers. The first ability letting one soldier donate an action point to another soldier. You can level this bond ability up to do more. For example, one of them negates any mental effects when the two soldiers are close enough together. But when one of these two soldiers die, the other one doesn't take it so well, and they'll go berserk for a few turns. So this new bond feature definitely sounds pretty interesting, and it has to be really useful when you have multiple soldiers who have formed bonds, and each of them having special abilities. Moving on to number 9, bonds aren't the only changes that were made to XCOM soldiers. Now they can become fatigued. You know how you always have that one soldier that you brought on every single mission because they were just really good, or maybe they're your lucky soldier, and because you always brought that one soldier along, the rest of your team was always kind of under-leveled, and then eventually that one would die and you were screwed because you had this rookie soldier filling in for a highly leveled up soldier. Well, now after you take a soldier on X amount of missions, they actually become fatigued and they're unable to go on any missions until they're not tired anymore. So you really have to balance who you use and when you use them. And you're going to want to make sure you kind of keep rotating through everyone, making sure that your other soldiers are also leveled so that when the time does come for them to fill in, they're not filling in at a rookie level. They're leveled up just like your other soldiers. And this is definitely going to change up the game more than you think because now you have this to think about. You'll have to rotate your soldiers more often and kind of keep tabs on everyone because you have to rely on every single soldier now. You really want to try to not get too attached to that one guy. And next up at number 8, covert actions are non-combat missions. So these are missions that happen in the background, kind of similar to the strike team missions in Mass Effect Andromeda, or the little side missions in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. You'll have to spend some resources and send out some of your soldiers to complete these missions, and upon completing them, you could be rewarded with additional resources, new missions, new soldiers, or intel on the location of a chosen stronghold. While covert actions are put in place to benefit the player, they can go very wrong very quick, with soldiers getting wounded or even leading to an ambush. And when they do get ambushed, you have to take control of these soldiers and safely bring them to the extraction point. But it's no easy task. You'll be down 1 or 2 soldiers and you'll be fighting a ton of enemies. There are a good amount of variety in the type of covert missions available. For example, if one of your soldiers are captured by the Chosen, rescuing them would be a covert action. Making contact with the 3 factions and gaining one of the heroes is also a covert action. So these little background missions are definitely crucial to your success in this game. And moving on to number 7, this new addition to XCOM 2 is definitely a little sillier than the rest of these changes, but I think it might actually be one of my favorites, and that's the photo booth. Photo booth lets you create your own custom propaganda posters. You can choose different backgrounds, poses, you can even write whatever you want on them. And soldiers that have a bond will be able to do special poses together. And what's even cooler about this is your posters will randomly pop up on some of the walls during certain missions. So you now have the ability to make some really cool propaganda posters or make the dankest memes. Sorry, I'll let myself out. And coming in at number 6, we have sit reps, which are new modifiers that can be encountered randomly during any mission. These modifiers change up how you play and are usually there to make the game harder. Some examples of these modifiers would be limiting your squad to 3 soldiers, the map being covered with explosives, or gaining the ability to re-enter concealment. And the mission will also scale to whatever sit rep you encounter. So enemy placement and difficulty will change to better suit you only having 3 soldiers, and being able to re-enter concealment will actually make enemies a little harder because you having the jump on enemies gives you a damage boost. And while we're on the topic of sit reps, this is the perfect time to talk about our next point. At number 5, we have the Lost. The Lost are a new enemy type that are essentially zombies. They're humans that were killed during the initial alien invasions, and they're also one of those sit reps we just talked about. When you get this sit rep attached to a mission, you'll have to take on a horde of the Lost on top of whoever else you're fighting. But they are a neutral enemy, which means if you're also taking on a group of the Advent, the Lost will also attack them as well. So at least there's some sort of upside to all this. It'll confuse them a bit and keep them busy. There's also a sit rep called the Horde, where you'll encounter twice as many Lost. And there's also a new dark event called the Lost World, and in every single mission for that month the dark event is active, you'll have to fight a horde of the Lost. So I really hope you enjoy these guys because you're going to be seeing them a lot, and they also look kind of scary, right? Because in XCOM, a group of Advent can be super difficult. So adding another group of enemies on top of the group of enemies you're already fighting would be a little bit unfair, right? Well, thankfully, there's a new mechanic that's been implemented solely for taking out the Lost. It's a headshot mechanic, and the way it works is if you kill a Lost with a headshot, you get that action point you spent back so you can attack another one. But you only get it back if you've killed it. So you can chain these together to take out as many Lost as you can before having to reload your gun. And chaining these together with other soldiers could have you wiping out these hordes pretty quick. And moving on to number 4, the Lost and the Chosen aren't the only new enemies you'll be seeing in War of the Chosen. There's also 3 new Advent soldiers you'll be going up against. First, we have the Purifier, and they're equipped with incendiary grenades and a flamethrower that deals ongoing damage over a wide area. And killing a Purifier could cause a fuel tank on their back to explode, so you definitely want to avoid killing this guy with a melee attack, and also make sure that when you do kill him, your soldiers are far enough away so they don't get hit with the blast. The next enemy is the Priest. They use psionic abilities to take on your soldiers. They have access to mind control and can lock your soldiers in stasis, and they also have the ability to survive a killing blow, leading to them shielding themselves, so you'll have to do all that damage over again. Where they're the most dangerous though is they're able to mind merge with another enemy. And doing this boosts the stats of that enemy they're merging with, but it also makes them extremely vulnerable. And if you're able to kill the Priest, you also kill the enemy they've merged with. Then last but not least, we have the Specter. This mysterious enemy is able to turn into a black cloud that is immune to damage and will vanish from sight. They also have an ability called Shadowbind, where they knock out one of your soldiers and then create a copy of them to use against you, copying their gear and their skills. They also have the ability to heal themselves by causing damage to you. These 3 enemy types are definitely going to call for some different strategies from the player to take them out. And moving on to number 3, we have the factions, which is probably one of the bigger changes to War of the Chosen. You didn't think they were going to throw those scary-ass Chosen at you and not give you some way to counter them, right? That would be a little bit mean. You get access to 3 different heroes, each one playing differently from the other 2, and each one being similar to one of the Chosen, which we'll talk about next. The 3 factions we have are the Reapers, the Skirmishers, and the Templars. The Reaper hero is very much stealth-based. They have an ability called Shadow, which is essentially concealment, but on crack. The detection radius is drastically reduced and your movement range is increased by 50%. So with these 2 abilities working together, the Reaper is an excellent scout. Another big advantage to the Reaper's Shadow ability is that firing a shot doesn't always reveal your position. It's all based on a percentage, and with each successful shot, that percentage gets smaller and smaller. So eventually you will be discovered. But even if you can get 2 to 3 shots off before that, that's an awesome advantage. They also have an ability called Remote Start, where they can shoot a vehicle, causing it to explode in one shot and giving it double the radius and double the damage. And they have a claymore that they can throw and shoot without being revealed. This can later be upgraded so that any other XCOM soldier can take a 100% chance shot at the claymore that you throw. Then we have the Skirmishers, who come equipped with a grappling hook. Seeing that the grapple hook doesn't count as a turn, these guys are all about getting multiple turns. They have an ability called Justice as well, which lets them use their grappling hook to pull an enemy closer to them. And their Overwatch is also pretty different. So instead of Overwatch being triggered and you just shooting at whatever enemy triggered it, you instead are able to perform any action. So you can attack, you can throw a grenade, you can move to a different spot, you can hunker down, you name it. And the last hero is the Templar. These psionic warriors are melee based, and after each successful melee attack, you get another move. So you can either attack the enemy again to try and finish them off, or if you don't kill them, you'll be able to run away, take cover, so you're not just sitting there for that enemy to take his turn and attack you. And with each enemy kill, you build up focus, and the more focus you have, the more your attack and your defense go up. And it also allows you to move a bit further. These heroes also rank up differently than regular soldiers do. They have their own unique upgrade tree, but it requires use of ability points, which is a new currency. And ability points are acquired by essentially just playing the game, but specifically being good at it. This new currency was definitely put in to balance out these heroes because they could become very OP very quick without it. And moving on to number 2, probably the biggest addition coming to XCOM 2 War of the Chosen are the Chosen themselves. It's really important to point out that these aren't 3 new enemy types or 3 new races, but these are 3 new named characters that kind of act as mini bosses. What's actually really terrifying about these guys is that they can pop up at any time, anywhere. XCOM already throws a lot of shit at you, so the thought of these guys popping up just kind of sucks and it's terrifying. The development team was definitely influenced by Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system here, because the Chosen learned something about your playstyle from every battle. And they also get more powerful as you get more powerful. You'll fight them numerous times throughout the campaign, each time they get a little bit harder. But they aren't necessarily interested in killing you, but are instead interested in getting access to a new resource called knowledge, which they will gather from disabling and interrogating your soldiers on the battlefield, or, well, taking them away, which we'll get to in a second. The more knowledge the Chosen gain, the harder they are to beat, and once they've gained enough knowledge, they can actually attack the Avenger, triggering a super hard mission that could actually lead to the game ending for you if you fail. Each of the three are also different in how they play, too. There's the Assassin, who's stealth-based, and they can actually kidnap your soldiers and you'll lose them. After that, you'll have to gain intel on where they're being kept, and you have to launch a rescue mission to get that soldier back. So maybe don't get too attached to your soldiers because they could just disappear. Then you have the Hunter, who is a super deadly sniper, who was also voiced by Nolan North. And then there's the Warlock, who can summon more enemies and uses psionic powers. Each Chosen will also have 4 random traits, 2 positive and 2 negative. So that adds another element to fighting these guys. Not only are they extremely difficult, but with those traits, you'll have to play a very specific way to beat them. And hunting them down and finding their HQ is something you're definitely going to want to do before you finish the game, because if you start the final mission without taking them out, all 3 of them pop up at once on top of everything else you have going on, and they're also fully leveled. So yeah, the Chosen sound terrifying, but it also sounds really cool, and I'm really excited just to see how badly these guys kick my ass. And finally, at number 1, I see a bit of confusion on how exactly War of the Chosen works with the base game and other DLC. So first off, you aren't able to just play War of the Chosen just like XCOM's Enemy Within. All of this new content, these new features and changes are all mixed into the base game. So you're gonna have to start a new game to get the full War of the Chosen experience. Which is fine in my book because they've added so much in this expansion that it's almost a brand new game, honestly. And as for the previous XCOM 2 DLC, if you do own it, you'll still get access to it, although some of it has changed to better suit War of the Chosen. And if you don't purchase War of the Chosen, you don't get access to even the smallest changes. So even something like how they change mental effects or bonds, you don't get access to that unless you actually buy War of the Chosen. And those are 10 things you need to know before you play XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Are you guys excited to revisit XCOM 2? And how do you feel about some of these changes like really changing how you have to play? We want to hear from you, so meet us down in the comments and let us know what you think. As I'm sure you already know, hitting that like button really helps us out, and if you're new here, subscribing is a good idea because we put out videos like this every single day. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.